always involved in church at Hillcrest Methodist Church. Cynthia just saw you come in, so glad you came. Hillcrest Church, and just about anything the church did, the church had, worship service or vacation Bible school, or we always went with our parents when they had their Sunday school class meeting, and all the kids ran around and went wild while the adults had their Sunday school class meeting. All kinds of food things and activities at the church. Darrell went to Giffen Elementary School, and my sister and I, we went to Galbraith. But when we moved, and when Darrell was school age, we moved when we were in that school zone. So my mother learned to drive just so that she could drive Darrell to school. She thought Deborah and I could make it fine on our own all the way to school and back, but Darrell had to be driven. So she learned to drive, and then he went to South Junior High and South High School. That was what we call it, school. Darrell was taller from as far back as I remember than any kid his age, and he wound up being 6'8". You saw in the pictures, our parents bought him an oversized tricycle because he wouldn't fit into a regular sized tricycle. I don't know where they found it, but it was it caused quite a bit of attention from the neighborhood. There would be grown-ups standing on the back with him. We were on a hill, and they'd be riding down the sidewalk, hanging on the back of that tricycle with Darrell. Like I said, I don't know where they got it, but he loved to ride it, and there was a lot of the grown-ups that would get on it with him. At our first house we lived in, we had a fenced-in yard, and then after, before Darrell was still a preschooler, we moved to another house, and the house we moved to did not have a fenced-in yard. So after we moved, one day we couldn't find Darrell anywhere, and my mother was, after we looked for him just a minute, she was in hysterics, just sobbing and crying and screaming and just going into total hysteria. And we could not find him anywhere. We had everybody in the neighborhood out searching for Darrell. And then my father got a call, and this is back when we just had one telephone on the kitchen wall in Darrell's old phone shed. And so he went and answered the phone, and the man from the grocery store that's about a mile from the house, he said, "Eb, I got your boy here." And so he used to walk to the store with my dad. It was a nice little walk, and when the first house we lived in, we were closer. Debbie and I used to walk there by ourselves and find and so, but it was a little bit further distance once we moved to the other house down the street, and so he had walked all the way to the store by himself. And when Dad brought him home, he was wearing a big floppy hat. So we don't know where the floppy hat came from, but he had acquired it at some point during his adventure. And so the neighbor said, "Well, we saw a young kid wearing a big hat, but we didn't recognize the hat. He was so big, we couldn't cover his whole head, so they didn't know it was Darrell." And so, they realized it was Darrell wandering off by himself. They'd probably said, "Hey, we've got Darrell," but he made it all the way to the store incognito in the hat. So anyway, that's we still talk about that as we played. I don't know if that beats your Volkswagen story or not. As an adult, Darrell worked for the Cracker Barrel. He was frequently Santa Claus at Christmas time. And he married his first wife, Pam, in 1989. And he was stepfather to her son, Jeremy. And they were married for many years until her death in cancer in 2017. That was a typo. She was born in 2017. Some of our favorite times with Pam and Darrell were when we would all get together in Knoxville or Berea and have an extended Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner with the family. And he eventually retired from Cracker Barrel after Pam passed away. And Darrell's best friend was Andy. This is Andy. And he was friends with Andy because he would go over to Andy's apartment complex. He knew some people there, and they would all get together and play cards. Well, then Pam started working a lot at night, so they would go over to Darrell's house while Pam was working late to play cards there. And then Andy and Darrell became real good friends. Well, then Andy had kind of a rough patch, and Darrell and Pam helped him to help him out. And Andy just became part of the household and remained there as a house came on. Of course, Andy did his part too. He grew a garden and canned and cooked and did a lot of stuff. He did his part. But but he remembered going there and lived with them. And Darrell was an avid golf fan. He sold hot dogs at the games for many years, and as his health declined, he would just stay home once again, and he's a major Falls fan. Darrell never saw a stranger. In fact, he would talk to anyone who had a big heart and would literally give him the shirt on his back. Darrell deeply loved and cared for his family and friends. He always enjoyed visiting and spending time with them. As I close, our family wants to especially acknowledge our gratitude to Andy for all the care and support he gave to Darrell over the years, especially during the last few months when he declined a lot and had several strokes. Darrell will be missed by our family and by all who knew him. Anyone else has any remarks, you're welcome to come up and give me.
The last